How's it, everyone? Welcome to another hybrid experiment segment right here on OpenCourt. I'm Kent, and today I'm testing out a hybrid setup that I've been planning for a while. So by now you guys have probably heard of the company Restring. They just recently launched their second string called the Sync. I also reviewed the Sync as well as their original string, the Zero. So I thought it would be appropriate to finally try a hybrid of their two strings, the Restring Zero and the Sync. Let's check it out. So Restring is known for having their strings come in this eco-friendly package. They're also very durable, very good at holding tension. The Zero and the Sync play fairly differently. The Zero is a shaped poly, whereas the Sync is a round one. The Zero is a little bit on the stiffer side. It also has great snapback, great string movement, and gets tremendous spin. The Sync is a little bit softer. This one is a little bit more muted and dead. This one is a little bit crisper. This isn't reached the levels of tubebuddy in terms of crispness, but it is more feel oriented than the Zero, so they are quite different. I have reviewed both of these strings individually, so please check out those reviews if you guys are interested in a full bed. I did test the Zero in my Yonex DR98 E-Zone, and I tested the Restring Sync in my Boom. I did try these strings in other racket setups, but those are the rackets that I reviewed them and posted. But I really love both of these strings, so I thought it would be appropriate to cross them together to hybrid them. So whenever I do poly-poly hybrids, if one of them is shaped, that's the one I put in the mains because I want that grip on the ball to get the spin. So I'm putting the Restring Zero in the mains, the 123mm, and I got the round Restring Sync in the cross, the 120mm, and I'm testing it out in my trusty Boom Pro. So I got the Restring Zero in the mains at 53 pounds and the Sync in the cross at 51. I also like to drop the tension in the cross whenever I do hybrid poly-polys because I want that main string to slide and snap back a little bit more to get me additional spin. I do predict this to play a tad more lively compared to a full bed of Zero. One of the downsides to a full bed of Sync though was that it didn't quite get as much grab and spin potential as I wanted. So this hybrid experiment is meant to kind of get the best of both worlds from both of these strings. The spin, the tension maintenance, the control from the main Zeros, as well as the feel and slightly more powerful and comfortable response from the cross Sync. Alright, so I've been excited to try this hybrid experiment for a while, ever since Restring launched their second string. So without much further ado, let's get on the court. But if you guys are interested in these strings, I do have an affiliate link down below in the description for both of these strings, the Restring Sync and the Zero. If you guys use that promo code, you guys can get a discount on your order, and it helps out this channel a lot. And as usual, if you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So let's start with the pros of the hybrid setup of Restring Zero and Sync. This string did pretty much exactly what I was looking for, and it got the best of both worlds. It provided the spin and control from the Zero and the feel and liveliness of the Sync. What I enjoyed most about this Restring hybrid was the level of spin and control I got from the baseline. The Boom Pro is relatively powerful for a 98 22mm beamed racket, but I had no problem keeping my aggressive shots inside the lines. My backhand is flatter than my forehand, so I tend to struggle keeping that shot inside the baseline if I really wind up and rotate my hips, but I didn't have any issues with this hybrid setup. In fact, I would say this hybrid encouraged me to swing hard on my backhand because I knew the ball would stay in and I could push my opponent back. On my forehands, I saw my ball diving aggressively right before reaching the baseline, like a forkball in baseball dropping right above the plate. I loved exchanging ground strokes with my forehand, and I felt I couldn't miss as long as I got under the ball enough. The spin and control probably most benefited my return of serve. I like to step in and take my returns early to put pressure on my opponent. I could trust this hybrid to keep my returns from flying long, and I could step in confidently and meet the ball in front with ease. If I caught it perfectly in the sweet spot, it seemed like my return went back faster than the serve, which is an awesome feeling. This hybrid setup, especially at the tension I strung it at, has a very low launch angle, which could adversely affect some strokes, but for the most part I love low launch angles, which is why I play with tighter string patterns. The spin, control, and low launch made hitting short angles really easy, and I was able to open up the court or simply hit a winner that would hit the side fence after one bounce. I also felt confident on approach shots because I could take a big swing and the spin and control would take care of the rest. The spin and stiffness from the zero and the liveliness from the sink resulted in great control and a connected feeling to every shot. Although this isn't the crispest response I've played with, it was good enough for me to feel confident going for smaller targets. My favorite shots to hit with this Restring hybrid were my forehand ground strokes and slices. The strings really gripped the ball on slices and I could really feel the snapback from the zero mains. Due to the combination of the stiff setup and snapback, I could hit backhand slices that stayed low over the net. This meant I could use the slice offensively and defensively. I could slice aggressively into the corner to transition to the net or slice low to keep my opponent from attacking and putting me on the defensive. I saw my slices actually bouncing to the side when I got a good clean cut, and this was really satisfying because my opponent often hit off center on these shots. The snapback really comes to life on the serve as well. My kick serve was easily the best serve I could hit with the Restring hybrid. I actually think spin potential on kick serves is better with this hybrid setup than a full bed of zero. Because the sink crosses are smooth, it feels as though the mains move a tad more, resulting in more snapback. It isn't a huge difference, but I definitely saw my kick serves bouncing up and away. My opponents had to reach above their shoulders to hit the backhand return, and this resulted in easier approaches for my partner. I saw a good amount of movement on my slice serve as well. I saw my slice serve curve in midair and bounce away from my opponent. Although this hybrid setup lacks the power to hit powerful flat serves or slice serves that had both velocity and movement, I still felt confident in my service game as long as I used the kick serve. Even when my opponent knew it was coming, they still struggled to tee off on my serve. Another thing I appreciate from this Restring hybrid is its stiffness. I like a stiff layup because it gives me the direct impact response from the ball striking the strings, and I could really feel it each time I teed off and took a big rip. I rely a lot on my touch, feel, and finesse, and although I wouldn't say this setup is ideal for crafty touch shots like drop shots, lobs, and angle volleys, this hybrid gave me the response I needed for precision shots. Some examples of these are topspin dippers at the opposing net player's feet, shots aimed into gaps in my opponent's court coverage, and changing direction from the baseline. I usually don't hit down the line on the net player very often, but I felt comfortable going for this low percentage shot if I saw an opportunity. But probably my favorite use of the feel came when I got a short ball that I could hit a dipper at the net player's feet and have them pop the ball up for me to smash. Setting myself or my partner up for an easy put away is very satisfying, and it is akin to a perfect assist pass in basketball. Side note, I used to play pickup basketball about 3 to 4 times a week when I was in college. And lastly, this hybrid setup is very durable and maintains tension extremely well. Both Restring strings are some of the best at maintaining tension that I've ever played with. I usually don't break strings or play with them long enough for tension to drop severely, but once the strings settled in after the initial break-in, I noticed no change in the playability. For those who are sensitive to tension loss, Restring has some of the best in terms of playability duration. Now, although I love this setup, it isn't perfect, so let's talk about some of the cons. First off, this setup is quite stiff. I strung it at 53 in the mains and 51 in the crosses, and even then I could feel the stiffness. I know I mentioned the stiffness as a pro, and that's true for me, but objectively I think many players with arm issues will be hurting after trying this string. Because of the stiffness, this string had a low power level overall, and I think if I didn't string it in my boom, I would have struggled to produce any pace at all. For example, if I strung this in my Speed Pro, I would probably be dumping balls into the net left and right. I actually experienced this a few times. When I had to hit a running outstretched forehand or a backhand that I couldn't quite get my hips into, I clipped the top of the net. If I were to use this setup again, I would try stringing a couple pounds lower just to get more net clearance and assistance with power. My flat serve rarely ever cleared the net, so I just had to abandon it altogether after a while. It was a good thing my kick serves were on point because my service game became pretty one-dimensional without my flat or power slice. Next con, and this is another one that is a bit contradictory to what I said earlier, it's the feel and response. I know I said this string is firm, responsive, and lively, but by no means is it crisp or have the dwell time of my favorite string, the Lynx Tour. This Restring hybrid was great for hitting precision shots that required a full swing, but it was bad for hitting finesse shots that required a softer touch. Case in point, I didn't feel comfortable hitting drop shots or angle volleys. On the occasion that I did try these shots, I couldn't gauge my touch well and my opponent would be able to run down my droppers. This is particularly negative for me because I'm not a power player. I'm a finesse player that relies on crafty and deceptive shots that my opponent doesn't see coming. My volley game was also not up to par because this hybrid just doesn't have the pocketing and dwell time to punch through volleys or have the response necessary for me to carve up the front court with my assortment of volleys. But overall, I still very much enjoyed this Restring hybrid, especially from the baseline, and this brings me to my final conclusion. So, who is the Restring Zero and Sync hybrid for? It's for players who want a stiff and controlled response, great spin generation and durability, and long-lasting playability all wrapped up in one package. If you can produce your own power and don't really come up to net much, this hybrid is for you. It is one of the best baseline combos I've ever played with, provided you can provide your own power. So those are my full thoughts on the Restring hybrid. Ever since Restring announced their second string, I've been dying to hybrid them, and I'm glad I finally did. I actually think this hybrid is better than a full bed of Zero or full bed of Sync, so I encourage you guys to try this. So now I want to hear from you. Have you tried this hybrid setup? Which Restring string do you like better? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's give Restring the attention they deserve so they can produce a third string very soon. Thank you for watching this hybrid experiment review of the Restring Zero and the Restring Sync right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.